Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA. Shorty Kirk.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. It's amazing to be here in Denver, Colorado. Originally, I'm from Illinois. Anyone from Illinois out there? Yeah, I'm sorry. See, the fun thing about Illinois is we have term limits, a little bit different than most states. It's 1 term in office, 1 term in jail. So when we ask for our governor's cell number, we actually mean his cell number. My grandmother was a lifelong Republican, passed away in the mid-1990s, and she's been voting Democrat ever since. So you might wonder how a kid from Chicago got started on this journey. So I'm honored to run the nation's largest conservative student organization, Turning Point USA, on over 1,400, thank you, 1,400 college and high school campuses across the country. Started this from the suburbs of Chicago with no money, no connections, and no idea what I was doing. And only in America could an 18-year-old kid with limitless ambition and a work ethic and no money, no connections, no idea what he was doing succeed. Only in America is that story possible. And 7 years later, it's just been the most amazing journey. And we've made some unbelievable, significant progress on high school and college campuses. But despite the progress, I'm going to tell you right now, the fight has just begun on these campuses. You know, there's so many important fights. Tom Fitton is a total American hero fighting in the courts. I mean, he does so much at Judicial Watch, all these subpoenas. I mean, we would not have half the information if it wasn't for Tom Fitton, and that's an amazing fight. It really is. I mean, whether it be the text messages from the lovers or all of the Hillary Clinton emails, all that stuff, Tom Fitton's a total hero. But the fight that I have focused my short career on, and the fight that I'm imploring all of you to focus on, is the fight on college campuses for the future of our culture, country, and the soul of this country. Because if we're really serious about where these bad ideas come from, we have to look at the originating source. And actually even starts earlier than college. It starts in high schools, starts in grade schools, starts at school boards, starts at the textbook level. And by the way, that's why I'm such a big fan of homeschooling. I mean, homeschooling gets all this bad rap, right? I mean, homeschooling, if it was up for me, millions of more people should homeschool their kids. And so if we're honest with ourselves, we have to admit that whatever happens on college campuses will soon happen in the halls of Congress. That all these radicals that you see in Washington, D.C., you know, a couple years ago I spoke at this very convention, and I made a guess, I made a conjecture, and I said, soon there will be someone who goes to D.C., someone who gets elected to Congress, who's quite clueless, very loud, very radical, probably a minority, very leftist, constantly wrong but never in doubt, and dedicates their entire career at trying to refashion the most horrific idea of the last 100 years, which is socialism, neo-Marxism, whatever you want to call it. And now we have an entire fleet of Congress people that believe these ideas. I mean, would it hurt Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to say one nice thing about America? Can you just say one nice thing about America? Ilhan Omar, only America would have shown the generosity that you were able to benefit from, Ilhan Omar. And then you have the wherewithal and gall to say, oh, America's a horrible place. America's an unequal society. America made her life possible. She was a refugee from war-torn Somalia. She was in a refugee camp, and our generosity and our benevolence brought in Ilhan Omar and her entire family, educated her. She ran for Congress, and she won, and then she goes to Washington, D.C., and America's a very unjust place. America's the only country in the history of the world that would take Congresswoman Ilhan Omar with open arms. No other country would do that, and then she has the gumption, and she has the brazenness to say that we're an unjust country. But where did these ideas come from? they come from college campuses. They come directly from the indoctrination centers that are happening on universities all across the country. And if we are serious about shaping and re-winning the culture war, which I really believe that's what this is a culture war for the future and the soul of our country. It happens directly on the college campuses across this country, right on the college campuses. And I find more times than not, students are not opposed to our ideas, it's that they're not exposed to them at all in the first place. It's that students have never heard the ideas that America is the greatest country ever to exist in the history of the world, that free market capitalism is the most moral, proven, and effective economic system ever discovered. That's right, I love my free market people, right? We love the free market. Or that America was founded on a Judeo-Christian construct and that religious freedom is fundamental to any functioning civil society. Or the fact that America was founded on 3 core ideas, the American Trinity of e pluribus unum, in God we trust, and liberty. These ideas are not being taught in universities. Instead, hatred for our country is being taught at universities by people who hate this country. Professors that are not thankful to be here, instead they're angry that they live in America. They're bitter that they live in America. If I had to sum up the entire left wing of this country, they're bitter. How could you possibly be bitter that you live in this country at this time with this prosperity and this opportunity, this safety, this president, for God's sakes? Oh my goodness. You could only be bitter if you have an internal struggle going on with yourself. Oh my goodness. And these bitter people are trying to then make all of our lives simultaneously miserable because their lives are miserable. And I'm sorry, I'm actually quite thankful I live in America. I'm happy that I live in America. In fact, I thank God every single day that we're able to live in this experiment, in this country, with the freedoms that we're able to enjoy, with the choices we're able to make. And guess what? This American experiment that we're all enjoying can disappear like this. One generation, this thing can be lost. Right now, the younger generation, most of the next generation believes that socialism is a better alternative than capitalism. How does that happen? No logical, rational person could exist in a free market system and come to that conclusion. This is taught. These bad ideas are instructed. They are taught to the next generation. They're taught to our peers. And this is exactly the challenge that we're bringing every single day at Turning Point USA. And now you see the entire left wing of this country embracing these ideas, where you have every single person raising their hand on that debate stage. Sure, I want to give free health care, free medical, free carnivals. You know how I describe the left wing? It's a Marxist circus. That's what it is. It's a Marxist circus. I mean, it's completely out of control. What have they not promised? Is there anything that they will not promise? But they're very quick to promise other people's money. Isn't that interesting? It's very easy to be generous with other people's money. It's extremely easy to be generous with other people's money. It's not me that has to pay more in taxes. You know, Bernie Sanders, I either call him Bolshevik Bernie Sanders or Breadline Bernie Sanders. I can't figure out which one is better. He actually honeymooned in the Soviet Union. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine honeymooning in the Soviet Union? Can you imagine getting married? It's the best time of your life, and you turn to your wife. Oh, where do you want to go? Cancun, Fiji? Yeah, I hear Stalingrad is nice this time of year. Like, who does that? And then you actually go. I mean, that's the other thing. You might propose the idea as a joke, and then you actually book the tickets. And then what's even more horrifying is Senator Bernie Sanders, he goes, and then he actually saw what was happening. And this is so important. This tells you everything you need to know about socialists and the left wing in this country, is that he saw the suffering, he saw the poverty, he saw the famine, he saw the unbelievable inequality, he saw the lack of opportunity in the Soviet Union. And he was perfectly okay with all that, but he saw something that he really wanted. You know what he saw? How much power the elites had. And he has very little skill. Bernie Sanders has very little to no skill. He could not do anything except politics. He is a professional demagogue. He's really, really good at it, in fact. He's amazing at misrepresenting issues. I mean, our generation, they go crazy. Oh my goodness, Bernie Sanders is the greatest thing ever. And I look at it like, this guy, first of all, he's going to take all of your money away, all of your freedom. He'll destroy our country from within. What has this guy ever accomplished in his life? I mean, besides successfully honeymooning in the Soviet Union and being a 20-year, socialist member of Congress, they were supposed to hold this guy up as some sort of banner waver. Like, oh, his ideas are new. They've never been tried before. Excuse me. Socialism has been tried 100 times over the last 100 years, resulting in the death of 100 million people on every continent, in every civilization, every culture it's ever come in contact with. From Venezuela to Cuba to Korea to Afghanistan to all of Eastern Europe to basically all of Southeast Asia. It destroyed China, still destroying North Korea to this day. Where exactly are these ideas working, Senator Sanders? If they're working so well, why is the caravan going north to America and not south for Venezuela? If socialism works so well, why are the people fleeing Cuba for Florida, but they're not fleeing Florida for Cuba? If socialism works so well, why are the guns only pointed in one direction? If socialism works so well, why wasn't there a problem with people fleeing West Germany? If socialism worked so well, why did Europe become more like West Germany and not more like East Germany? If socialism works so well, why is it that people have to flee it in order to survive? And most importantly, Senator Sanders, if socialism works so well, why is it that every single human being that actually has lived under it does everything they possibly can to fight against it and to get out of it? If socialism works so well, Senator Sanders. And yet, what's the one common denominator of every single time that this experiment has been tried? The amount of power that is given to people that would otherwise not have that power. You want to make yourself really important in a social society? Run for office. You're the most important person in the country. Not the philanthropists, not the church leaders, not the community members, not the civic leaders, not the thought leaders, not the authors, not the religious scholars. See, in a free society like America, those people are the most important people in our society. The authors, the writers, the creators, the entrepreneurs, the business people. In a socialist society, they'll destroy the church. They'll run over faith institutions. Creative writing is not allowed. Dissent against the state. You know who the most important people are? It's the Politburo. It's the elites that know better. It's the Green New Deal people. It's the Cass Sunstein elites that if you just give them enough power, they'll solve the next problem for you. And boy, is that rooted in hubris, and is that rooted in pride. And this is the divide that is happening so distinctly right now in Western civilization. And what is so horrifying is usually these movements of radical socialism, they happen in times of despair and depression. We are living in the greatest economy in American history, and we're trying to create ways to destroy it. Never before has a country wanted to put themselves out of prosperity as much as the left wing in this country. And not only that, they're trying to sell despair. No, things actually aren't that good. Forget the lowest ever black unemployment rate, lowest ever Hispanic unemployment rate, lowest ever Asian American unemployment rate, lowest women unemployment rate in 60 years, lowest youth unemployment rate in 50 years. Forget that 4% GDP growth. Forget the best stock market ever in the history of our country. Forget the fact that the stock market had its best June in 88 years. Definitely forget the fact that black poverty rate is at the all-time low. Don't even look at the fact that 10 million black Americans are now off food stamps in this country. Please don't look at the fact that black America has a 4,000% increase in entrepreneurship, small business rates. Instead, things are horrible because Trump said mean stuff. Oh, really? That's why things are horrible? Because Trump said mean stuff? Really? Really? ISIS is destroyed. We're finally having peace on the Korean Peninsula. The Iranian radicals are finally held in check. The embassy is in Jerusalem. The Golan Heights is recognized. The PA is getting defunded. Finally, our allies have to pay for our military, defending them for free for the last 40 years, which is one of the most ridiculous things we've had to do. Our allies respect us. Our enemies fear us. And yet, we have to hear this entire thing that Donald Trump is the worst, like your former governor. I can't believe this guy. You know, he says, well, socialism is not the answer. That I agree with. And then he goes on, Donald Trump's the worst president in American history. Oh, really? Governor Hickenlooper, he's really the worst he's the worst president in American history. This is what he says on the stage, that he's the worst president in American history. Worse than Andrew Johnson, who was impeached and literally stole money from the United States Treasury. You know, worse than some of the presidents that were in wide disgrace. You know, somehow he's worse than that. And you look at this and you say, oh my goodness, they're not afraid that he's going to fail. They're horrified that he's succeeding. They are scared to death that he's succeeding. Because if he now is able to say, I have done what I'm said I'm going to do, never before has a politician in the history of this country been attacked for doing what he said he's going to do. We're so used to saying one thing and another. Read my lips, no new taxes. A Republican said that. You know, I did not have sexual relations with, that was Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, weapons of mass destruction. Barack Obama, you like this doctor, you can keep. We're so used to politicians saying one thing and another. But then all of a sudden we have a leader who says, embassy move. Yes, all the other guys said this. ISIS destroyed. Yes, trade deals renegotiated. The only thing that he has said is, I know you heard, sick of winning. I'm not there yet, guys. I mean, all these victories after victories. And let's not forget, we have Gorsuch, we have Kavanaugh. We are knocking on the door of 150 circuit court judges, nearly half of all the judges in this country replaced by this administration. And yet we have to sit through an entire political apparatus that is trying to convince us that things are bad. When things are bad, you don't need to be told things are bad. In 2008, when a lot of you were going through hard times, and I know my family was going through hard times, did you need some demagoguing politician to tell you things were bad? No, you know things are bad. Thank you very much. You don't need a two-hour infomercial on why this is the crisis of democracy. I have to hear one more time an existential threat to this country. You know who's an existential threat to this country? The left is an existential threat to this country. Thank you very much. And so I only have a couple moments remaining, and so I'm bringing this fight to college campuses across the country. And I'm telling you right now, they're not going to give us our country back. They're not. We have to fight for every single inch. And God bless this president for doing what he is doing to deliver the promises. But I'm telling you right now, everything that I just recited, all these successes, most young people have never even heard this. They're being told by their professors that this is the rise of the worst, thing that we've ever seen, that there's kids in cages. No, actually, kids in cages were under Barack Obama. I don't remember the protests. I don't remember any of this stuff. They can't find a picture from this administration of kids in cages. All the pictures they have to use are back from 2014 with President Barack Obama. And we have an obligation and we have an opportunity. The opportunity is that we can win this generation over around these ideas in a way that will make historians' heads spin. And the obligation is what a gift we've all been given. I love seeing all the red, white, and blue. Would it hurt the Democrats to put a flag up on stage? Would it really hurt them to do that, by the way? It's as if the idea of America has now become a partisan idea. It's the more July 4th celebration. Oh, he wants to take over the country. Really? That makes, with Sherman tanks from the 1940s, that's how he's going to do it? Really, on July 4th? That's his big Machiavellian plan. He's going to roll the tanks, 4 of them. He has 4 tanks from the 1940s, and he's going to roll them and invade Northern Virginia. This is what we're supposed to believe. And the obligation. We've been given this unbelievable gift. And there's something all of you can do. You can fight for every single inch. It's not always easy. I understand that for the conservative students out there, Turning Point USA and otherwise, I know your grades are getting lowered. I know your professors are coming after you. I know that you're losing friends over this. I know there's social media posts about it. How many of you have been silenced by social media companies in one way or the other? How many people out there? Yeah, and they say that it doesn't exist. Exactly. I know that your voices are being stunted on Google and Facebook and all these other places. I understand that. But we have an obligation. We really do. And it's the people that understand the gift, that are thankful for the gift, and fight for the gift that are going to be able to preserve and protect this unbelievable treasure we have been given by God for my generation and future generations. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Please welcome